Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the WBF podcast. I'm here with Jesse Grisham. Jesse, how are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing good, Daniel. Good to see you.
Good to have you.
Yeah.
I've been meeting with your dad for a little while and just spending some time with him. And it's been really cool to get to know him. So I'm excited to get to know a little bit more about you and your story tonight.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so because Bob has always been around. Like ever since I was a kid, I feel like he's one of those guys from a small town like Paducah. Like everyone knows him.
Yeah.
Like especially in the church, it seemed like every time he came to church, it's like, oh, Bob's here.
Right. He came over with the first truckload of dirt. So you could tell him I said that.
yeah. Oh, that's good. I'll tell him for sure. I bet he'll listen to this one. I would imagine. But yeah. So and then during the faith conference, it's when you're wearing that shirt, he sat like right next to me.
Yeah.
And it was him and Coach Mack. Mm-hmm. And Coach Mack was like my PE teacher in like CCA, like elementary school.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So, then that's a cool other connection between us is like you guys grew up going to CCA and my family went through CCA. Me and Ryan, not the whole way, but William went all the way until he graduated and
I've known William since we were little. I mean, really little.
Yeah.
Of course, your family and my family went to FGT when we were like at Full Gospel when I was really, really young.
Yeah.
You were not there around at that point, but yeah. So it was. Our families are connected pretty far back. So
there's just all these cool things that God does in your life with connections because it's like we have this faith conference for a couple of years now. Apostle Dale Yurton's been coming, and lo and behold, he's like a spiritual father for your dad.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So have you gotten to know him over the years too?
I've met him a few times, but no, yeah. I don't have a close relationship with him. He's very busy, right. Highly sought after guy. So, but he's been a source of encouragement and leadership to my dad, certainly over the years. I've heard his name. I mean, the Foundation Truth book has been on a bookshelf in my house or multiple bookshelves for forever. So
really,
yeah,
that's neat. Yeah, I got me one. I got to go through it sometime. I got to take a class
good.
Or something. So, your dad was a pastor. Was he a full-time pastor when you were growing up?
Yeah, for some of it. He was more like an associate at FGT for a while. Mm-hmm. And then about 95, I think, he went and pastored at Lola Pentecostal. On an interim for about a year, and then Brother Kenneth Brand, who a bunch of people, your dad knows who that is for sure. But he was coming to take over that church, and so Dad was kind of holding the pulpit down in anticipation of his arrival. He was wrapping up some things. Again, I was really young then, so I don't remember all the details. But so Dad started pastoring a little bit for about a year then, and then we went to a church called Calvary Pentecostal, which is now Calvary Christian Fellowship, and he pastored there. Oh man, I should know all the dates. Started about when I was in middle school through maybe my junior or senior year. So, and that was, you say full time, and that was something that, I don't think he would have ever classified himself as being full time. He was the pastor of the church, but it just wasn't like it was a small church out in Wycliffe, and he always had a job, and so that was not really. He wasn't necessarily what you would call a vocational pastor. He was like bivocational. So I don't have anything against vocational ministry. That's just not how the model was at my house.
Yeah.
And so, he always just called it making tents. And, talking about Paul and he always told me the story about, Smith Wigglesworth. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. He was apparently, I think he was a plumber. Right.
Oh, really?
So he said, there's a famous quote: "If my pants are ever in need of a stitch or my shoes down in a heel, I'll return to plumbing." So that was basically the mentality in my house. My dad was like, well, I guess I'll work and to make ends meet, So he always worked while he was pastoring. So I don't know if you could say he was full time.
Right.
I don't think he would say that. So.
Well, it's cool. It's kind of like a blueprint for people who, always question, can I do full-time ministry or not? Like it's proof is in the pudding that you can do a job and still like minister as God leads you to.
Oh, sure. Yeah. There's no one size fits all model.
Yeah.
There's nothing prescriptive in the way that you do church or pastor church. You know, I think there's lots of different ways to do it. And the larger it gets, obviously, you know, there's more things to do. If you have more physical plants, you've got a building and you've got a parking lot to take care of, and you've got all these things, then you got to take care of them. So it kind of takes a little more involvement and more time. But Calvary was not that big.
So what was it like for you growing up, going to church every day, every Sunday, and your dad being a pastor? What was that like for you?
Oh man, I always tell people I was born on Sunday, March 10th. So my birthday was on Tuesday. I was born Sunday, March 10th, and I was, if the hospital would have let my mom, I would have been in church Sunday evening, March 10th. But I was in church Sunday, March 17th.
Right.
So so began the trend. And that was back in the day when you had Sunday morning and Sunday evening service and Wednesday night, full service, right? So 3 a week, my entire life without fail.
Yeah.
You know, and it was, if the doors were open, we were there. And so that was sort of, but it was good. And I was talking to my wife about this recently because she didn't grow up that way. So when we moved back here and started going to Faith Center, and she like, we have people that just show up. They'll come, you know, Trey stopped by one day with his trailer. He's like, hey, I noticed you had some boxes. I'm going to take those to the dump, and I'm going there anyway. And people, you know, cook food for each other, and they'll go hang out, and they'll go do events. And she's like, that community she didn't have when she was growing up. And so it's like extremely attractive to her. She's just like, oh my gosh, I've just always wanted this, you know?
Yeah.
And so for me, that was normal.
Right.
We always had people around us. Our house we had the smallest house, but our house was always full of people. And somebody was either at our house, staying with us, eating with us, or we were at somebody's house. I slept on more people's floors as a child, because my dad traveled and preached a lot, and my parents would sing and do all that stuff. And I would sleep on people's floors. We'd sleep in the fellowship hall, all kinds of stuff. We just carried a sleeping bag and pillows with us. And so my sister and I grew up that way. And I just remember some of my earliest memories. I remember waking up, laying underneath the pew on my little green frog blanket. So I had to have been maybe 3 or 4. So this is one of my earliest memories. And I just remember waking up under the pew and seeing people's feet dancing, you know? And so that's just always kind of how it's been for me. So that's kind of normal. Having that church community and the family that you're involved with, not only on Sundays, but also the rest of the time too. You know, that's your friends and your family.
I grew up like that, pretty similar. And, you know, you see it in today's culture, that community style of living is just fading away. It's like, even for your wife, you know, it was like uncommon. So it's good to know there's still a heart in this community where you can find people like that and like really live life. It's important to live life with people, you know, having people around you. And so, you know, it's something when you go to church 3 or 4 times a week. It's just like you're constantly in there. Did it ever become like a burden? Did you ever like get to that point where you were like, man, I don't know if did you ever battle with that? Like rebellion? Like, I don't want to have to come, or?
Honestly, no, not really.
Yeah.
Because I saw it work at home.
Right.
And being in community with people who take it seriously and really want to please the Lord, being in community with them throughout the week, I mean, you see it work and you're like, why would I not want to be there around the people that love me? And that's like safety, you know, when you have people around you that love the Lord and can advise you and guide you on things. Like, there was just a safety in that for me. So no, I never really rebelled against that. Doesn't mean I didn't have questions, but I knew where to go to ask the questions, and that was not forbidden, or it wasn't looked down. You know, some people have real problem if you start questioning things too much.
Right.
But I think the Lord can handle all of your questions. He can handle any questions or any doubts you have, as long as you come to him to ask them.
Right.
Like, I have no idea how water could hold you up. They can't. If you
Right.
try to walk on it, you will sink.
Yeah.
So you can doubt that all you want to. But if you say, well, it happened when Jesus said, come to me on the water, and Peter stepped out and he walked, I don't know how that works.
Right.
I doubt that water would hold me up, but I don't doubt that Jesus could tell me to do it.
Right.
So how can we walk that up? So questions like that were not seen as like, that wasn't taboo to ask that kind of thing. So there was a safety in being around those people. So I never really rebelled. And like I said, I saw it work at home. We had peace at my house. And I remember I would go to my friends' houses and stuff, and I'd be like, this is how you live?
Right.
Like, how can you live with everybody screaming at each other and that kind of thing, And I was like, I don't really think I want that. So,
Yeah. It takes some maturity, even at a young age, to kind of like put those two and two together where it's like, this is a good environment. These people love me. I'm not going to get anything that the world can offer me. They can't offer me anything better.
Yeah.
I think a lie that the enemy
they got to me too
uses-
late, man.
Yeah, I think that's a common lie of the enemy is like your friends at school or this group over here can give you something that this community can't. And I think that like being able to ask a genuine question is so important. And as I heard you say it, I feel like I struggled with that whenever I was younger. I wouldn't just ask the question. I know I had people in my life who I could at least pose the question to. And I think I internalized a lot of it rather than like speak up on it. And I think that's such an important thing. It's like, it's okay to ask questions, especially about stuff that's so, the Bible has stuff that's bizarre in it. That's like, oh, wow, this is like, logically, like my brain is like this doesn't add up in my brain. So it's like, like you said, like for myself, I know I can't, or I doubt that I could, but I know Jesus can. And I know if Jesus told me
Right.
to, I would. And that's a big grasp to have there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And, you spend your whole life being trained in that way, like I have, and it becomes second nature to ask those questions, but also expect that you'll get an answer from the Lord. I think a lot of people do ask questions and they feel guilty about it. But I think they also aren't asking in faith, and I don't think they really expect to get an answer. And I think one of the most critical things, if you ask a question, you got to wait for the answer. And I don't think people are willing to do that. I think they just ask these questions almost like rhetorically. And I'm like, well, there is an answer if you want to hear it. But you got to wait for the Holy Spirit to illuminate the truth to you. And the big prerequisite to that is you got to be in the Word.
Right.
So that he can guide you to where you need to go to get the answers that you need. It's going to be really hard to find those answers if you have never cracked the book,
Yeah.
And I think that's where people will get kind of off really quickly. They'll just assume, well, they'll ask these questions. Well, if God's so good, well, then how come did he allow this thing? And I'm like, the answer's in there, man. Do
Yeah.
you want to find it? We'll find it. But they just walk away before they can hear the answer. And so I think growing up the way I did, really, there was no plan B or like option B. It was, This is the way we're going to do it. And I would ask my dad, well, what does the Bible say about such and such and so and so? And he'd be like, he would hand me his, this is before the internet. I know you don't know what that's like, but
I have a little bit, a little time.
I'm a millennial, so I remember slightly before there was internet. And we certainly didn't have it. So he would hand me his big, Dake's annotated reference Bible and a Vine's expository dictionary and a Strong's concordance. And that was the internet before Google. And so I just would look it up and do whatever. And he would just be like, you read that and then you come back to me and we'll talk about it. And usually I would be able to find it in there. Take me a while.
Yeah.
And he might say, well, you might want to start at Psalm 28 or whatever, something like that. And then we can go from there. And then it would show you all the cross references and stuff. And you just go down that rabbit hole. So I was trained up in that from a young age to like, if you want to know the answer, you got to look for it. But it's in there. It's in there because all things that pertain to life and godliness, he's given it to us through his word. So that's, so I think that really shaped my thinking growing up in that environment. And it just is normal for me to be that way now. And that makes you weird. You're going to be, I'm weird. You're going to be weird to everybody else. It's going to be foolishness to the world.
Yeah. Your dad says stuff like that all the time.
Yeah.
He's like, this might make me sound off my horse or whatever. Like,
Yeah, he is weird.
But
right? A lot of people think he's weird.
But I don't know, man. I find it genuine to believe that way and have a faith that's strong. My dad's always been a very strong faith guy. So for me, it's not weird. It's genuine. And to others, it might be weird, but it's just good to be around people like that. They really strengthen you, and they really help you see things that maybe as a young man I'm like blowing out of proportion. And you get someone who's in their 60s or so, and they really like put it into context where you're like, okay, this isn't like the end of the world. The sky isn't falling. Just a simple like one or two lines, and I'm back on track, and I can like reassess my whole life. Where it's like, oh yeah, your dad just gave me some really good advice that I think everyone's probably received or some form of this. He said you gotta be comfortable in your own skin, and when he said it, it was like a rocket ship went off in my heart, and I was like, duh. But whenever you feel called to do something, like you're a worship leader here now, and like you feel like called to worship, is there ever like this pressure on you in that, or do you just know like I'm good, this is what God's called me to do?
I've always answered that question fairly simply. It's when I'm leading worship, that's one of the few times in my life that I'm ever sure that that's the best thing I could be doing at that moment. And I don't have to wonder, could I be doing something more constructive or better with my time? Or maybe is there something else that the Lord has for me to be doing right now? And I'm just like,
right.
When I'm doing that, those thoughts are gone. I'm at the ideal place that I need to be at that time, because that's what the Lord has tasked me with. Now he could change my assignment at any time, but he hasn't done that. So for me, it's fulfilling in a sense that I get a lot of personal gratification from playing music and from leading people and that, but it's also fulfilling in a spiritual way because I know that it's what I'm built for from the ground up.
Yeah.
I was prepared for that from about the time I was 14 was when I sensed the Lord calling me to that ministry.
I threw you a curveball there because like whenever he was telling me to be comfortable in his own skin, your dad, he was talking about like going to Mexico. He's like, well, if the Lord provides the funds, I'll go. And if he doesn't, I'll sit on my couch and watch a movie. And, there's times where I do feel called to do this, to like talk to people. And just as you were explaining your calling and like when you're doing it, there's none of that doubt. I feel that way when I sit down with someone. I'm so focused in on the conversation and like, what does the Lord want me to ask? Like, what does the Lord want to bring out in this conversation? That I don't have that fear. But whenever I'm not doing it, the fear starts creeping in, and I'm like, and I was starting to get like almost like an anxiety and fear and worry over it. And I go through seasons of, I've been doing this for a year or two, and I go through seasons of dealing with this. And so when your dad said that, it was just like, boom, like it's okay. Like if a guest doesn't come, or if like you can't find anybody to do it, you can sit on your couch and watch it and watch a movie every once. You know what I'm saying? Just
right.
being comfortable. And I love how you put that, because that even helped me just now. Just sitting here like, oh yeah, just like it is that sense of this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And being okay if God called. Would you be okay if God called you out of it?
Man, I would like to say yes.
Right.
It's kind of all I've ever known, really.
Yeah.
And the Lord has subtly shifted my I say certain aspects of the call in my life to, used to, it was just to play and lead and that kind of thing. And it's become more pastoral over the last several years, and where I've been teaching a lot more and have been a worship pastor. And so that's become more of my heart, is for like now it's changing much more for the people and less for not less for the music, but just adding an aspect of like pastoral care, where I just really care about people and developing people and helping them and just being a cheerleader for everybody. That's much more important to me now than it would have been as a teenager or early 20 something,
So you do feel like you're like transitioning into like more of like a pastoral role into this worship pastor?
Yeah, that's always been. I've always known that was sort of the, I'll say the destination, but the row that I was going to plow. I just
Yeah.
always kind of known that was going to be the thing. I just didn't know when and I always, truthfully, I always made excuses for myself. Well, I didn't go to seminary. I don't have any. I mean, I have a college degree, but not in theology or anything like that. I don't have any credentials in that world, and that's important to some people.
Right.
And so I would always make excuses. Well, I'm just a musician, or I'm just this. I'm not. And I can't do any of that stuff. The Lord really got a hold of me about 3 years ago, and he was tasking me with certain things, and it wasn't that I was resisting, that I didn't want to do it, but he was moving me into an area that I won't say I wasn't super comfortable with it. It was something that I thought was the right thing, but I was like, I don't feel qualified. It's imposter syndrome. I was like, I just don't feel qualified to do this. What if, everybody's gonna be like, well, who's that guy? Why does he think he can do it? And the Lord got a hold of me, and it was kind of like in the cartoons, when like somebody's like freaking out and they just go psh, 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 and smack him in the face, and he just kind of like grabbed me up by my shirt. It was like, psh, psh. and he said, "Stop saying you're not what I say you are." And I was like, it was like he hit me right in the head with a rock, and I was just like, immediate clarity, and stop saying you're not what I say you are. Because I would go around like Gideon, like, oh, I'm the youngest in my father's house. It's the least house in the tribe, and like whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying you're a mighty man of valor,
Right.
and like I felt like this big, and he was saying you're going to be this thing, and I was like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
So he really had to get a hold of me to help me to be okay with it. So when I say that I'm comfortable like being a worship leader, I am. Because I've come to terms with that's what the Lord has set me apart for. And I tell the guys on the worship team this too, that when you're consecrated to the Lord's service, just like the vessels in the temple and in Judaism, they were cleansed, they were purified for ritual purposes, and they weren't used for common purposes. The table and the cups and the plates and all the different, things that they had in there, those were not to be used for common things. You didn't just take them out and eat and drink out of them on a regular daily basis by regular people. They were set apart for the Lord's service. And when you're consecrated like that, you no longer get to decide what's your avenue of work that you're going to do. You don't get to decide anymore. Well, I'm just going to do my own thing and hope that it's okay with the Lord. Now you get your assignments from him because you're consecrated to his service. So I will tell people who will listen, if you want to like get into worship ministry, it will cost you something. Like, so count the cost. And I'm not saying in a bad way it will cost you something. I'm saying like, you're married, so you understand this. When you got married, it cost you every other woman in the world. But you gained the one.
Right.
So you came out way on top. Right? You came out way ahead. But it did cost you, right? It cost you all of the other options. You were locked into that one option. And so when you're consecrated to the Lord's service, all of those other avenues they may be closed to you. And that's not to say that you can't play music anywhere or whatever, but the way you carry yourself and the way you go about playing your music and doing all that stuff will be different. It has to be. And so that's something that, because I have been consecrated, it wasn't a hard sell for the Lord to tell me, hey, I'm kind of shifting the way you're going to express this leadership that I've put you in. So it just took me a little while to get my head around that. And he had to smack me around a little bit to just say, hey, get on board with what I'm doing, man.
What you're saying is, I think so many people have been in a season. I know I have multiple times of like selling myself short. Like I'm not qualified enough, or I'm not, like, are you sure, Lord? Like, and even in my own case, like almost too far to the point of where I'm like, talking down on myself rather than just trying to be humble.
It'll paralyze you.
It's like a false humility that we try to present, where we're like, oh, but really, it's not what the Lord's called us to do or to be. And so whenever he does that, when he slaps us a little bit and says, no, this is who you are, this is who I've called you to be, it is an assurance that like you don't have, like, I don't know, if like the pride isn't, you don't worry about that stuff. Just worry about what the Lord told you and stop trying to worry. Sometimes I think we worry about too much about what other people are going to think too in this whole scenario rather than what he's already told us. Mm-hmm. So I love that. And when you're consecrated to something, it's different. It's a different thing. You have to see it differently. I think so many times in my life of kind of going through my ups and downs of following the Lord. And then, I had my season of not following him. It was like I was ignoring that humongously important fact that once you've been called, you are set apart and you need to live that way too. And it's such an important message I think people need to hear.
Yeah. I mean, that's ecclesia, right? Is the called out ones.
Yeah.
And so the Bible says that it is God that works in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. So he's working on your heart to help you to want to do what he wants you to do, and then enabling you to do it. So that to me is a great comfort, because I thought, because I didn't have the equipment or the credentials or the whatever, that I was not going to be able to be effective. And, I think the Lord has a great sense of humor, or at least he does when he talks to me, because he said, well, it's a good thing we weren't counting on you to be qualified in the first place, because you weren't. And we have this treasure in earthen vessels, right? I don't know why he chooses to use who he does. Or, you think about the motley crew that he had as his closest disciples,
Right.
And I don't know why he picked any of them. Why didn't he pick some guys who had it together a little bit better? I don't know. He does, though. So if he can use all of them, he can use you too. But the great thing is, just like you got into the kingdom, you didn't get into the kingdom on your own merit. You didn't get into the kingdom because you were righteous. You got into the kingdom because Jesus was righteous and he said you could come.
Right.
All right. So I didn't get into being a worship pastor because I was an eloquent speaker, or because I was the best musician, or because I had all credentials. None of that. I got into this because the king said, this is what you're going to do. And so it's like a letter of safe conduct in, like in medieval times. Like, I'm not here under my own authority. I've got the seal of the king, and that's he told me to come. So that's why I'm here with this message.
Yeah.
And so I think that shift in your thinking from I'm not good enough, that's correct.
Yeah.
So get past that. He's good enough, and he said you could come.
Right.
So
music's always been a part of your life. Your dad, and did your mom play?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. She
piano or everything, or
a lot of things. She was very fine pianist, clarinetist, and flautist.
I think my brothers had her as a teacher.
She was a teacher for a long time and a band director.
Yeah.
She has a music degree, so music education, so and a master's degree. And but both of my parents had 2 degrees.
Really?
Yeah, in music. So
it was just a part of your.
It's kind of a normal. They were both music teachers. So my dad was a band director at Ballard for a long time, and mom taught elementary school. But I mean, she taught piano lessons from the time I could read letters. I was reading, the staff. So yeah. I was never going to escape it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you said somewhere around 14 is where you kind of felt like that calling come into play. If I'm not mistaken, it was here, right? In this church?
Yeah. So it was, the CCA was here.
Right.
For a time when they were building the new school. And so that was about the time that it was in that summer at Rose of Sharon camp. I'm pretty sure Trey was there, and I think probably Travis and Amy. I know Holly and Bill. Well, Holly was there. I don't know about Bill, but she was one of the counselors, and and it was just that. And honestly, and I've told this to the youth before, like, I hesitated to ask the Lord, what do you want me to do with my life?
Mm.
Like, I know that's a big question. It's very teenager to ask like this epic question. What do you do with my whole life? And I could never do anything else. And I was afraid because that would get locked into something, you know.
Yeah, it's terrifying at that age.
But the real truth is I was afraid that if I asked him, what did he want me to do with my life? He would tell me.
Mm.
Because I knew if you asked, he would talk if you wanted to hear. And I was scared to ask him, what do you want me to do? Because he would maybe tell me to do something I didn't want to do. And then I would either have to be disobedient, or I would just live this life of drudgery, hating everything that he asked me to do and just grumbling and that's really what I thought.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a low view of God, but
I think we all do that though. We all do that in our own fleshly mind because we can't comprehend him. So it's like, what if he asks us to do something, shovel snow for the rest of my life and move to Alaska? Like, you never know.
Yeah, you know what? You become the best snow shoveler you could possibly be.
That's right.
You know, and I'm just shovel every shovel to the glory of God. You know what I'm saying? Right. And that's the mentality that you sort of develop over time. Like, no matter what you do, bring him glory as you go, like the Bible says. So important. So if you're a cashier at Walmart, every grocery you bag up, do it for the glory of glory. Make that fit in that bag the most precise Tetris way that you can to the glory of God. I know that sounds like ridiculous. Like, you don't really think about it. Yeah, I do think about it that way. Right. Like, it's if you have the mentality that everything I do is for his glory and I exist as a reflection of him as an image bearer, I'm like, it will transform your life, man. Because then everything you do is a ministry. Right. It's not like I'm called to be a whatever. I'm telling you, you're called to bring glory to the Lord, you know, no matter what you're doing. And so that was where I had to kind of get that through my head. But then also the Lord, you know, asked me to do music, which I loved, but I didn't have any aspiration. I mean, I wanted to be a rock and roll guy, you know, I was like a star and get Grammys and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I kind of thought like playing church music was kind of lame. Oh, really? You know, it was very different. It was very different when I was a kid. Music was just different, you know. Right. It was a lot of like Southern gospel and yeah, I got you. You know, organ and church music. It was just like, you know, I wanted to play like Nirvana and stuff. Right. There wasn't like a contemporary Christian. It was really on the very cutting edge of that. Like, I think some of the early Hillsong, like "Shout to the Lord," had kind of made it. Yeah. Of course, Steve Chris Chapman, you know, but that was more like artisty kind of stuff. Right. It wasn't really until, I mean, I think Delirious was probably the first. Wow. Yeah. They're kind of the model for the modern worship team. Yeah. From guitar tones to drums and everything. And really them, like that record that had "Did You Feel the Mountains Tremble?" Mm-hmm. Like that was like this is church music, you know, and they were playing arenas and stuff, you know. Yeah, they got huge. I remember they were on tour with like, who did they go on tour with? They were on tour with like U2 and oh man, I can't remember who else, but they were on tour with like some big names, and it was like, these guys are singing about Jesus. What? Yeah. And so that kind of changed my mind. And then you know, David Crowder came up about that time, and then that was early Chris Tomlin. Mm-hmm. I think his first record came out when I was like maybe 12 or 13. So it was like really right there. And that kind of started changing. So I came up with the rise of like the worship team and the modern worship leader kind of thing. What year do you remember about what year that was when Delirious and what started getting big? Yeah, don't quote me on this. I think their record came out probably somewhere around that one with "Did You Feel the Mountains Tremble?" Probably somewhere around 98, 99. Okay, well, it feels like I was like 13, 3 or 4. So I say I remember, but I remember them being big, but maybe I remember them being big after they had already kind of either reached their peak or were maybe on the, you know, tail end of it, because they had that like "Paint This Town Red" or something. They had, and that one was like hit the charts and stuff. Yep. But anyway, sorry, I just wanted to make sure I didn't say I remembered it and not have been born yet. So I just wanted to clarify. No, it was late 90s. And, yeah, okay. But so that kind of started changing my perception of things. And I remember, you remember Sonic Flood? Okay, so their first, I think it was their first record that came out at like 99. And that one had like In the Secret and a couple of different songs that were really formative for me. And I just started playing those and you know, my dad was like, why don't you play that song in church? Like play that on Sunday or whatever. Well, it was real contemporary, and we were pretty much singing straight out of the hymnal at that time, you know. And so I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I'll do it. So I just did solo guitar and vocal and did it. And that's kind of where I started doing that in church as a teenager, like 13, 14.
Wow.
And I just, the people that were around me recognized that, hey, there's something to this, you know. I think you need to keep doing that. So they were calling it out of me, you know, and encouraging me in that. And that's why I started seeking the Lord. And I was afraid that he was going to tell me that he wanted me to do something that, you know, like he was going to send me to Haiti and I was going to be a missionary and I wouldn't get to play any music and I'd be, you know, and I would just be like, oh, I'm suffering for the cross, you know, like, and then, you know, when he asked me he said, I'm going to use you to minister to people with music. And I was so relieved. And I was like, why was I so scared about this? And he was just like, what did you think I was going to ask you to do? I made you. I made you to want things. And if you will submit that to me, I will give you the things that you should want. And I will make you want the things that I want for you. And I was like, and so that scripture, delight yourself in the Lord and he'll give you the desires of your heart. I think that doesn't mean he'll give you what you want. I think that means he will put the desires in you to want. He will give you the desires for your heart to have, I think is what that means. And so I found that to be true. And so then I laughed really hard about 10 years after that moment when I was standing on a mountain in Haiti and I was playing music with a bunch of Haitians.
That's awesome.
And then I remembered that conversation with the Lord where I was like, oh, just whatever you do, don't send me to Haiti. And then all of a sudden I wanted to go there, you know, like it was. So not only did he give me the thing that I wanted, but he also, I went multiple times. He also put in my hand to do the very exact one thing that I said, I'll do anything except don't send me to Haiti or Africa or whatever. The thing that I had dreaded that he would do, he also gave me, but then I was delighted in it and I wanted to do it. And the only reason I couldn't go back was because they assassinated the president the week that my flight was leaving.
Wow.
The third time that I was going back. And they said, you can't go back. It's too dangerous. So we just haven't gone since then. But, you know, it was just so funny that was the one thing I said I didn't want to do. And
then you get to do it and enjoy it too.
Yeah, and then I liked it. And I was like, man, I can't wait to go back. So,
and then his provision over you guys to get you out of there before, the country turned upside down.
Well, it's kind of always been upside down.
Right.
But it got pretty gnarly there for a little bit. Yeah. So
you started worshiping, you're like a teenager, but you continue to pursue this all through your adult life, right? How walk me through the steps, because I'm honestly pretty ignorant to like your whole like coming back and going and coming back story. So tell me more.
Okay. So I lived here until about 2011. I think I moved in the spring of 2011 and moved to Nashville. And, I was in bands and I joined a band at the end of 2010.
Why'd you go to Nashville? Was there a reason?
Yeah, to pursue music.
Okay.
And so the band I was in, we were touring a lot. I think the first year I was with them, I was out 178 days of the year. So that's 6 months. So it was we were out quite a bit. And we were always in Nashville doing writing stuff, working on a record, so we were at the studio driving back and forth and I'd be staying with people or, that kind of thing. So it just kind of made sense because I wanted to go there anyway, but I was extremely intimidated because everybody in Nashville is good.
Right.
And it was like, I was like, what am I? I'm nothing compared to any of these guys, it's like a while to go. And I remember my mom sitting on the edge of the bed with me and she was saying, look, I could tell that you're not happy here. I could tell you're not satisfied with what you're doing because you're like moping around here all the time. She was like, you gotta, you got to do this thing. You got to try it, because if you don't, you'll never know. And then it'll just always say, well, what if I had really tried? So I went, and I lived there for 15, almost 16 years. And so it was good. And so went there and began leading at a church called Mosaic. And then
This band you were playing with, were they playing Christian music, or
Yeah.
was it? What's it like? What's it like in that atmosphere, being a Christian band in a city that's probably pretty secularized? Were you able to get in a bubble, or was it like?
yeah, I mean, all the Nashville is the biggest hub for like country and Christian music.
Okay.
So all the labels are there, all the writers are there, all the publishing for all that is there. There's a lot of crossover in country.
Whenever,
and
okay, so we just went like a couple weekends ago for a Predators game or whatever. So we parked really close to the stadium, and you walk by like 50 bars on your way to the.
Oh, yeah.
So all I see for that blip is just a bunch of bar bands and stuff. And
They're all on Broadway.
They're all fantastic,
and they're all good.
yeah. So I guess like that's where my brain is. So that's why I was trying to understand like your.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of people who do that for a living,
Right.
and they make decent money at it, and that's just their 9 to 5.
Yeah.
My neighbor, really great drummer, Dango Chellin. When I lived in Nashville, he was a couple doors down from me. Super great guy, loves the Lord, awesome. He's been a drummer for everybody that you would know, and but he'd come in, he'd be out on the road. They'd be on tour with this crazy tour schedule, and then he would come back, and the next day he'd be on Broadway playing 8 hours.
Wow.
And he'd go here, play at one place for 4 hours, do the 4 hour session. Then he would go and do another 4 hour, and then he'd go home. That was his day. But his day started at like 7 p.m. or whatever. So it's like right late,
Yeah.
But that's just that life. It's kind of crazy. It's I'll say that the touring life and all doing all that stuff is really fun when you're like 24
Yeah.
and don't have any kids, you're not married and stuff. It's
So
fun
what
then.
kind
It's
of like touring were you guys doing? Like church conferences or what did that look like?
Yeah. We played a lot of the major festivals. We played Cornerstone and Ichthus and Atlanta Fest, Rock the World, Rock the Light, Rock the Universe, which is down to Universal Studios. We played a lot of festivals.
Were you guys writing your own stuff and playing your own music and all that stuff and everything?
Yeah, and we were signed to a label that was a sub of Sony
Okay.
for a little while, and then we're independent for most of the time. And
What was the band called?
it was a band called Hearts of Saints.
Hearts of Saints. I'm going to have to look them up.
Yeah, and then so I played with them for about 5 years, and started kind of winding down as everybody was kind of thinking about settling down, maybe having family. Not me at the time, but
Yeah.
So we kind of just decided like it's kind of difficult. You kind of have to be cut out for it. It's kind of difficult to do, and the money is not as great as you would want it to be. So we were like, do we go into debt again to like do another record and like get everything tour ready and go out and be out for the next year? And then we're just like, I don't know, man. That seems like a lot of money. So we were just not really jazzed about it at that point. It's kind of hard to. It really is kind of grindy sometimes, but it's fun in its own way. The playing music is fun, but that's about 5% of what you do. So it's
Right.
And so we kind of started dialing back on all that, and then I played with several different artists. Played with a couple country guys. Played with a worship band called People of the Earth. Those are really good friends. And then I started touring and road managing for Todd Smith of Selah, the gospel band or the gospel group, and you probably heard a bunch of their stuff. So I got a chance to work with their management and learn the ropes on that and all that stuff, and road managed for Todd for a few years and did all of his public appearances and TV stuff. That anything that he went to, I was kind of his. He just took me around, and I would play and run all the tracks and run the show and run the merch and all. Everything. It was just kind of wore a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did that for a long time. But the whole time I was leading worship at home, usually I was there.
Yeah.
And then Taylor and I, when we were married, we went to Belmont Church, which is right there on Music Row.
Did you meet her in Nashville, or did you meet her?
Yeah, she's from Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah, she's like a unicorn. You'd never see anybody from Nashville that's actually from there.
Yeah.
So she's like a one in a million in more than one way. But yeah, so she's from there, and but oddly knows nothing about music.
It's funny.
It's just wizardry to her. She just has no clue. She's so when we were dating, I told her, oh yeah, I'm a musician or whatever. She was like, had no clue about any of that. I don't know if she still has probably no clue, but
yeah.
it's kind of weird. But yeah, so we were going to church at Belmont, and then I started leading there, and we were there for a long time, and got to really learned a lot from a lot of the guys there. Belmont had so many talented worship leaders that had played everywhere, knew everybody. I mean, the worship pastor there who brought me onto the team was a guy named Tom Lane. He's legendary. He's been Don Moen's band leader for like 35 years, man. I mean, he's an absolute studio legend. And I was just like, what? He wants me to be on the worship team, and so got to learn from him and just see his great leadership, and our tech director was David Terry, was fantastic, and Mike Demas, our front of house guy. So he's the guy that engineered like Butterfly Kisses, like Bob Carlisle. That so it's like these guys. I think David like mastered every like Reliant K record. So
Reliant K is in my wheelhouse for sure.
Yeah. So like that's these guys. That's who I learned from and watched them. As they were doing stuff, and so I
just
love
all
those
these
guys.
building blocks.
I love those guys.
Building on top of you, all these people who have the wisdom and the knowledge and the the ability. They produce some of these awesome things, and they're the ones who are leading Sunday worship with you. That's awesome.
Yeah. So you got to see, it's a little bit different town because it's built around music. Well, now that's changing rapidly, not for the better, in my opinion. But
really,
yeah, it's the music scene is just not what it once was because they've changed a lot of the city laws where you can't have music after a certain time, and you can't, like they've changed a lot of the noise ordinance and stuff. So certain areas that were known for venues that you would just go see, a lot of the legendary venues have been sold to developers to build condos, and a lot of the legendary studios are torn down or sold to put up more high rises.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like losing its character. So that's
like
kind of a lament that every musician in Nashville has. But there's all the writers are there, all the publishers are there, all the musicians, the managers, all of the people that do music for a living are there. And so,
did you see an end to that season while you were in it, or did you just think like, I'm just going to ride this until the wheels fall off, or what was your mindset?
I mean, that was my forever plan. I was like a pig in a mud puddle, man. I was just, that was where I was.
And you had a wife who supported it, even though she didn't get it. She was like, she loved that you loved it.
Oh
kind of
man.
thing.
Yeah. She's always been supportive from day one. And I was gone a lot when we were first together. And then I quickly realized I didn't want to make a living off of just touring. Cause I was like, I didn't get married to be gone.
Right.
And so, I didn't really look for super like intense touring opportunities. I did tour some, but more limited, and so that was a kind of a decision I made kind of early on because I loved working in studio, and I had began producing, about 2013, and started quickly learning how to do all that, and discovered I wasn't terrible at it, and I was like, wow, okay, I thought this would be. It's hard, but I was willing to put in the work. And
did someone inspire that in you, or was that something you just through those years of playing so much, you're like, I want to try to do this?
Yeah, I've just always kind of been fascinated by the way music gets made. I was that guy that like read all the liner notes of every album to see who played on everything and like who wrote everything and like all that stuff. And that just was always like fascinating to me. Now you could look it up on Wikipedia, but you had to get the album to look at the liner notes back then. Kids will never know about that. The simple joy of opening the liner notes. But so I remember I got called from a worship leader buddy of mine who was my roommate in college, Bo Harris. He's a worship pastor now as well. And he was doing a record and he asked me to come play bass on the record. And I'd never done any studio recording before. So we got in there and we did it, and it was super fun. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. Well, then the band I was in at the time, it was a band called Reset Red. We recorded an EP in Nashville with a friend of ours named John King. And it was like an epiphany. And I asked John, I was like, dude, can I just stay here in the corner? I'll just stay in the corner. I won't say anything. Can I just watch you work on stuff and whatever? And he let me stay. I stayed at the studio for a week. I just slept on the couch and I just watched like a fly on the wall, everything he did. And then I caught the bug and I was like, dude, I've got to do that. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out how to do this. So the next record that we did in that band, I did it.
Wow.
And it was okay. You know, I'm not embarrassed of it. It was pretty good for a beginner for the first project. And then so I just kind of went from there and then started picking up jobs here and there. And I got one thing that Hearts was working on a song that we cut. And I was like, can I have a shot at this? Like, will you let me do it? If it's terrible, then we trash it. And we did it and it wasn't terrible. And actually everybody liked it. And then it ended up getting picked up by the Titans and the Predators, and they started playing it in the stadiums and stuff. And I'd have friends like texting me and Snapchatting me, like, when it would come on the speakers and stuff. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe this could actually be a thing. And so that's when I started really kind of shifting towards like wanting to do more production work. So that's really like, if you want to say like my day job, that's really what I do. I produce and mix records.
That's awesome, man.
And I love it. It's the greatest thing. I'll always do that. I don't think I could, at this point, I don't think I could do anything else. It never gets old. Not to me anyway. And
so you're, like you said, you were just loving it. Like, no. So what brought you back home?
My sister moved back. So that was a big draw because she's in Paducah and her husband and my nieces, are here, and of course my parents are here and my mom's side of the family's here. And so Taylor had kind of been, that's my wife, Taylor. She'd been wanting to do that for a time. It was kind of always been on her because she likes how close my family is, and she wanted that to be in that. Well, I was like, no, I mean, my career's here. I was worship pastor at the time at Awakening in Nashville. And I was like, I'm making records. I had a publishing deal, this is where I moved here for a reason. And my mom got sick, as you know, and then she deteriorated, went into the hospital. I was here all the time, running back and forth, and it was not a good time. But I saw how quickly things can change, and I just sort of weighed that decision on, I want my kids to be around their family, and to know that dynamic, and I want my wife to be happy in that, and I want her to get what she wants, and so I just made the decision we were going to move back, and my mom died in November, so we didn't quite get here in time, so it was pretty quick, from the time we decided to do that. And, so it was not under the most pleasing circumstances, but it was a good move. And it looks a little different doing music here where there's no infrastructure for that. Yeah. And there's no people. So I still will go back to Nashville time to time to do projects and things like that if I need to. But, now I'm just focused on finding people here that want to make music. And I can still work in Nashville if I need to. I'm still writing songs. And, of course, leading worship here is very important to me. This Faith Center is always, even though it was never my church home, I always felt like it was my home church because of the kinship that I have with all the people. I mean, I've known half the church since I was a baby. So, yeah, they just weren't at Faith Center at the time. And so... most of the Oasis guys just folded in. That's, Dwayne and Tanya and Bill and Holly. And,
I've known Bill and Holly forever.
Cheryl and Barry, and
Yeah,
they're
for
all
sure.
we're all Oasis people. So I've just known them since I was a kid, and
Yeah, Billy and Holly have been coming to church here for years and years and years, ever since I was a kid. I mean,
yeah,
within a couple of years of it having a building, they were in the building for sure. So
yeah, that was so. We were at Oasis with them, and that was about the time they were all coming here. Is about the time I was started touring. So
right,
I never actually came here. So then I
yeah.
moved away. So
By the time the church, by the time Faith Center moved here, I stopped coming, and then had my few years of my sabbatical, and then I'm back stronger than ever. So, yeah, you kind of like had some tough stuff you had to face,
sure.
just even like recently. So, like, how do you keep yourself straight? How do you keep yourself solid?
Man, get a good wife. It's the first thing I would advise you to do.
Yeah,
Marry somebody that's really nice and good.
Yeah.
So just that's my
Amen.
piece of advice to you. Make a good choice.
Can't state it enough. Can't overstate how important it is to find a spouse who's a wife for a man, a husband for a wife. That
Yeah. He
there's
that
nothing
findeth a
better.
wife findeth a good thing. So anyway, that was my first piece of advice. You know, I did face a lot of, I faced a lot of feelings of like loss of identity, loss of status. I was asked to be the worship pastor at what was my home church there, and uh, you know, it would have been very prestigious, for lack of I don't know any other way to put it. It would have been quite a step up for me career wise.
Yeah.
And it was what I wanted to do for years anyway. But as the opening was there, I mean, like Michael W. Smith was the worship pastor there.
Yeah,
like in the 90s,
you
you know
like
what I'm
kind of
saying?
worked
Like,
your way up to
so
it.
yeah, it was like that was what I'd been working towards, and
Yeah.
I had to say no to that, and that was really tough to deny myself, and to, even though things were going great career wise, it was not the right career decision to move away from Nashville to move to Paducah.
Yeah.
If you're only
But for your
talking
for
about
your
careers.
wife, for your
I had
family.
to do it for my family. I
Yeah.
had to take care of my dad and my sister. They needed me, and my wife needed me to be here, and my kids need to be around their family. And so
Yeah.
I don't regret that decision. It was the right decision, and I believe that I honored the Lord by honoring my wife and my dad and my sister, and so it's one of those like kind of is a gut check moment. It's time to man up,
Yeah.
because you, as men, if you're a man of God, it's your job to lay down in the ditch so your wife can walk across on your back so she doesn't get her shoes wet.
Yeah.
That's just what we do. Our shoulders are built for that kind of load. And so
What other things come to mind when you think of man up? What are some other like ways what do you think of when you think of like manning up in Christ and like being a godly man?
I would say first thing is it's not a popularity contest. So just doing things to because it's the easy way or the popular way, probably not going to get you anywhere that you need to be. And so you're gonna have to be willing to make hard decisions. You're gonna have to deny yourself constantly. Which, I mean, that's core. I mean, that's what Jesus said. You got to deny yourself and take up your cross and follow me.
Yeah.
That's hard.
It is.
That's hard because we don't want to put ourselves on the cross.
Yeah.
And I think too many men, even in the church, have Jesus on the cross and themselves on the throne. And we got to reverse that. We got to put ourselves up on the cross and put Jesus on the throne of our lives. And so if he so much as clears his throat, we snap to attention and say, "Yes, sir. What can I do for you?" It's not a like, "Oh, but I wanted to do the whatever." Forget that. You say, "Yes, sir." You don't argue with the king. The king doesn't make suggestions, right?
Right.
He gives commands, and you follow them if you're a faithful servant. And so it's It's not the one who starts well that gets the crown. It's the one who finishes well.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one who finishes the race. So that's where you kind of just have to have that mindset that no matter what happens, I'll take all the arrows. I'll take the blows. I'll take whatever happens. If it means I can honor the Lord and have my conscience clear between me and him, you got to do it. No matter how hard it is. I don't care if it's uphill in the snow, you know, like you just do it, you know? And so there's a part of it that's, you don't make excuses. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have feelings. It doesn't mean you can't express those feelings, and you can express all of that to the Lord. Take that to him. Cast all your cares on him because he cares for us.
Amen. Yeah.
Right. So you can take any of that to him and say, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Jesus did that with the Lord. And the Bible says he despised the shame of the cross. He did not want to go there. And he prayed, if there's any way that I can not have to go through this.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. That's what we have to say. If we want to be like him, we got to say, I don't want to do this. And that's an okay thing to say to the Lord. He can handle that.
But we got to avoid that temptation to not follow. You know what I mean? He avoided it to the point of drawing blood, sweating blood, to avoid that temptation of not following his will. He still said, your will be done. You know what I mean?
But he was obedient.
Right.
Unto death. And the Bible says that this is another one of those things that I'm going to ask the Lord face to face. What does this even mean? The Bible says that Jesus learned obedience through the things that he suffered. So it was important for him to go through that. But also important because he's our example in all things. He's been tempted in every way, just like we, but he did not yield to the temptation. He'd never sinned. And he was faced with the hardest decision that anyone could ever be faced with. I mean, like you said, nobody would die for an unrighteous person. Maybe somewhere you might find somebody that might be willing to die for a righteous man, somebody who's never done anything wrong. Yes. But nobody's going to die for a sinner, right? Not willingly, but he did. And so that he's our example in all things of, and you got kids, so you'll appreciate this. I tell my kids sometimes, understanding is not a prerequisite for obedience. Obey first, understand later, or never. Wow. But obey first. And then you may get the answer that you're seeking. But I can promise you, if you don't obey, it will be worse. Yeah. So that's an important lesson for a kid to wrap their head around. Yeah. When you're disciplining your children, I'm not saying you don't have to be harsh about it, but obey first. Don't ask me questions first. When I tell you get out of the street, don't say why. Well, explain it to me. When there's a dump truck coming down the street, we don't have time for that. What I need is obedience. And so that's sometimes you have to train your kid. You obey the first time. Like you don't ask questions, ask the questions later for sure. When we're somewhere else, why did you have me do that? Okay, then I'll answer that question. Anything you want to ask, I'll answer it later. Yeah. but right now, I just need you to do it. And so that's some of that is what I went through. Honestly, it was like I had all questions and no answers, and I just trusted that he was the source. And is it my life or is it yours? And I said, I guess it's yours. And so it's just what I'm going to do. So I had no answers, and but I trusted that he was the answer. And if I would hide my heart in him, that he would provide everything that I need later. But right now, obedience was required. And then he told me, there's a period that I think the Lord goes through, like these periods where, for me, he just doesn't say anything. And that's an uncomfortable place for me sometimes. But usually when he's not saying anything, it's because he already told me what to do and I just haven't done it yet. And he's just waiting. And he's like, why would I say something else? You haven't done the first thing I said yet. So after I was obedient in that and moved back here, I was praying. I mean, I've had my face in the carpet a lot more hours than I wanted to. I was praying just probably as deeply as I ever had. And he said, now that you've been obedient, I'm going to help you. So my trust in him he was vindicated. Like, like he was shown to be good. And what I had trusted him for, that if I would step out in faith and obedience, that he would be the source, that he would be the answer, and I would get the answers and I would get his help just because that's who he is in his nature. He's proved himself to be that by speaking that to me. You've been obedient. I'm going to help you now. And so like, I'm going to make it okay for you.
Yeah.
And so that settled a lot of things in me. I still haven't seen a lot of the result of that help. I'm sure that's in the works. I'm sure he's working it. But I haven't seen the end of that yet.
Right.
But I believe that I will see it.
You're like smack dab in the middle of it still.
I quote David all the time. This is one of my favorite scriptures because it's me. He said, I would have fainted except I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. So I'm not seeing it right now, but if I didn't believe I would see it, I would faint. And he's talking about in a battle situation.
Right.
He would just give out.
Right.
But he believed that the Lord would be the deliverer. He believed he would see his goodness, and that's what sustained him. And so I'm still in that position somewhat. And it's very uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. Even I've walked with the Lord for a long time. It's uncomfortable, but it's way more comfortable. It's way more comfortable being in that space, knowing I'm on his side.
Yeah.
Versus being by myself and then hoping and praying and wishing and fingers crossed and toes crossed and everything crossed. I hope this goes okay and I hope it works out, but you have no guarantee. But with Jesus, you have a guarantee that he's going to be good. And so that's something that gave me peace, even when it was probably the most tumultuous and most definitely the hardest time of my entire life.
Yeah.
But knowing that he was not going to leave me or forsake me was like, I can get through this. Don't need to have all the answers right now. Just need to do what he's asking me to do. And then maybe I'll get the answers later. Maybe I won't get them this side of heaven. I don't know. I might have some questions for him when I get to heaven. Be like, why did you let me go through all that? But he's not obligated to give me any answers. I think he will because he's good, but he's the king. I'm the servant. He's not obligated to tell me what he's doing. He's the master.
Yeah.
Right. It's not for the servants to know. But Jesus said, I no longer call you servants. Now I call you friends. That's why I believe he will reveal things to us.
God's answers are so interesting in the Bible. I know we got to wrap it up. I know you got worship practice here in a little bit. His answers are always not like what humans would expect because he's God. I mean, I just think about his answer with Cain. His answer to him, it seems so simplistic. Like if you would just turn your head, like if you would just do good, you would be accepted.
Right.
It's like
pretty easy, huh?
It seems so simplistic, and still he couldn't even accept that. And Jeremiah asks, I'm reading in Jeremiah right now, and Jeremiah asks God, like, why do the wicked have provision? And God doesn't give him like, well, this is why some people are rich and some people are not. He's like, if you worry about the man, how are you going to keep up with the horses?
Yeah, if you're weary from running with the footmen, how shall you contend with horses?
Yeah, like what?
Right.
Like you're worried about mere men whenever, like, first of all, there's probably harder things coming, and they're going to have horses, and you're going to have to try to keep up. And then he says, if you have trouble footed in like a flat plain, how are you going to do in the thicket in the Jordan? Like, how are you going to deal with it? And I just loved his answer there. It was like, it puts the question kind of back on Jeremiah to solve, to like, what do you mean by this, Lord? And I think sometimes we get answers like that where it's like, and then when we get to the end, or we get to the end of that season in particular, it all kind of is lit up for us to see, like, he was always way ahead of us. We just had to trust him. And so I think that in any season, when in a season where we're just on the floor praying, the answer is coming. I'm going to believe with you that you will have that answer you're believing for, and you will be able to see it, not just like know it's coming, but see it and experience it.
I like your reference to Jeremiah, and I identify with Job. Not that I've suffered in any way that Job had to suffer, but I like when he's having his discussion with God. And he asks him all these questions. What did I do? Like all these things.
Yeah, some pretty valid questions.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, it's a valid.
He
valid,
articulates himself pretty well. Like his buddies are kind of like, and then he's like got some legitimate like grievance.
right.
Sorry.
Yeah, and he was concerned that they were concerned. Well, if you argue your case to the Lord, He's going to destroy you.
Yeah.
Like, you don't remember all that stuff. But he trusted God, and then the Lord's answer to him. Of course, he's the source of wisdom. His answer to him was, "Can you explain to me why the water stops at the shore and doesn't go any farther?" Mm-hmm. Like, what?
Yeah.
Until you can explain to me that, I don't think you can handle this. Like,
Right.
how come the stars hang up there and do what they do?
Mm-hmm.
Where were you when I formed them? That makes your question seem pretty small, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
I take comfort in that, and knowing that He's the God of the universe and nothing is too small for Him. It doesn't escape His notice.
Yeah. Paul had a good grasp on that. I just think of like Romans. I believe it's 9 where he talks about Pharaoh and how he created. Like we're just clay, right? Like, and it's a humbling chapter. Even today, I have so many questions. I have trouble understanding it all. But it's like, we're questioning something that created everything down to the molecular atom. Like, you know what I mean? Like we can't even,
Right.
we haven't even discovered every piece of this earth, let alone the eternity of space around us. So we will never know all of it.
Yeah, the universe is expanding faster than the speed of light. We have no idea why.
Yeah. And on top of
That
it, we
shouldn't
have
be physically possible.
our lives and our families and our loved ones. And why is this happening? Why did this happen this way? And it is tough whenever I see people struggling with those questions. We all struggle with them. And every answer might not look the same.
Yeah, but my hope is in that. That's the God that we serve.
Yeah.
The one who created everything, and everything is sustained by His will.
Yeah.
He said, "Let there be," and it was.
I think that eternal mindset comes into play a lot with those questions because we're here now, and it helps get ourselves out of this here and now some, just to put a little bit of an eternal aspect on it. Mm-hmm. Think of like, there's more than this. My reward is in heaven, not the car I drive, not the house I end up with when I die. That house will just be here. I won't get to enjoy it any longer. What am I building up in heaven? Am I being a good steward here so that like I can be rewarded? Anyways.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Anything you're looking forward to before we hop off here? I know that you said that there's some things that you're believing for, but like anything in this season that it's just you got you hyped up.
Man, I'm super excited about what's happening with worship here at Faith Center.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been having some great times of worship. I mean, it just seems the people's response. We've been seeing people saved and delivered of that. I mean, I'm just glad to be able to play some small part in that, even if I'm the background music, but I think we're just, the worship team and the pastors and everything. I think we're just like lockstep in what we want to see happen and the change we want to see happen in people's lives and our dedication to honoring the Lord. And I think that's an exciting time, and I'm really excited to see where things go. And it's been a very fun and a very personally fulfilling time to just, to come back home and have my church family still here, and all these people, and I get to see them, and I've just have such favor with people here, and it's been really easy. And so, I mean, I love it here. I'm just excited to see what the Lord's going to do.
It's been a joy to get to see you work in your gifting, because for a little while it was like you were in the sound booth, and I didn't even I'm so ignorant to so many people's stories. That's why I love doing this. And so just to see you, I love how you're like allowing our congregation to grow in its confidence to sing even if you're not singing. You'll allow yourself to back off. You want to encourage like, we don't have to have someone singing for us to sing. I love that you're bringing that out of the people, because I've always yearned for that, of people not being afraid to just worship the Lord freely, especially when we're here to worship the Lord in a house of work. I mean, all the things. So, and I just love your ease. So it's been a joy to get to play with you, and also just get to be in the room when you're leading.
Yeah, and likewise, and I hope we'll have more opportunity to do it. I know you've been doing some with the youth, and
yeah, it was awesome to be back up there yesterday. That's
cool.
a true blessing. So
yeah, we'll do more of that.
Awesome. All right, guys, I'll talk to you next time.